Ah, oh shit, ok, ça marche. Tabarnak. Ah, ah. Ok, ah. Hey. Okay, how do I put it? This should be good this way. Oh, Nana. Spurs, Spurs, Spurs. Luis Diaz, Barcelona. Ah, ah. Ok, Luis Diaz. Hey. Détacher la fenêtre. Yeah, I guess this is good enough. I guess. Oh, I need to open the games though. This one, just put it here. Summoner's War. Good play games. Google Play Games Beta. J'ai mal au ventre aussi, wesh. J'ai pas eu mon casque encore. J'ai pas Dragon Ball, je veux Epic 7. Oh, change point. なんかもう猫だ。哇。Putain, je vais mettre ça plus haut là. Tac. OBS, je l'ai laissé. Je le laissé. Voilà. Tac, je verrai Epic 7 play. Don't show this again. J'ai le free? Non, j'ai pas le free. Bof. Carouse. Oh. Je vais fermer ça là. Je regarde des vidéos derrière. J'ai mal de tomber dessus par contre, oui.
Manchester United have lost the Europa League final and the despair is real. We are lost as a club. Rest in peace. And there's a lot to get into tonight. We're going to get into it. What's next? We're going to talk about Amorim. We're going to talk about Spurs. We're going to do the player ratings. Make sure you register for the player ratings. Links in the video description. I want
j'ai mal au dos. Pourquoi j'ai mal au
a
dos?
lot of people saying Amorim out in the chat. I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to get straight into this. I've been sitting on this for a while, probably all season. I've been trying my best. I think there's a lot of United fans like me who, you know, we don't do the flip-flop thing. We don't start screaming about the best team in the world when we beat Lyon and then Amorim out when we lose to Wolves. We wait till the end of the season. We wait to see what happens, and then we assess things. And I think you've got to be completely and utterly honest. I don't see a way back for this football club. I really don't. At this moment in time, I don't see a way back for this football club. What will happen tomorrow is Cunha will be here we go, and some morons in our fan base will fall for it. It's not going to change a lot. It won't change a lot. The football club is so far away from Liverpool and Arsenal, it may as well be a different planet. We're miles away. Now, we might start climbing the table. We might start playing a little bit better. But Bruno Fernandes ain't going to be in Champions League next year, and then he'll be 33 when we are in the Champions League next. Harry Maguire will be gone when we're in the Champions League next. So will be Casemiro. Those three players are probably three players that, you know, we're meant to be relying on. And we've just basically, there's no point in them. They won't be here next time we're in Europe. Will we be in Europe next time next year? We'll delve into all of this. I've got to say, the first thing that jumps out to me about this game is that it's Kinky FC again, isn't it? Kinky FC. When I say kinky, I mean like we must love being pissed on. We must love getting pissed on. Golden Showers FC. We must love it. We must love it because I'm watching that game tonight and I'm like, was the brief to lose the game? I'm appalled. I've never really. I've said things in watch-alongs. I very rarely say this in a match reaction. And I will go through everybody's comments, so don't worry. I'm not intending to finish this stream in the next half an hour, or probably even hour, because there's so much to talk about. And I think tomorrow's a different day, and we'll have to find a way back. But tonight, we've got to go through all this.
What's the point of it?
I watched that game tonight, and I'm going to get onto Amorim, don't you worry. No one's getting protected.
That's free.
No one's getting protected. The only thing I care about is my son crying upstairs and Manchester United. And everybody's got upset kids. Some of you are crying as well. I think that. What about all those people who've been to Bilbao? How much money it's cost them? I know how much it cost us to get out there.
I have him.
It's ridiculous. At some point, this great football club has got to say, "Oi, enough is a fucking enough." Who do you think you are, Ollie Murs? You're not pop stars. You're custodians of a football club that means something. And you've been pissed. You know what? 39 fucking points. 39 points. Our worst ever Premier League points total is 59. And that's embarrassing. Last season, we got 60. And people were going, 8. I fucking love 60 points. I bloody love 39 points. And this is what I mean now. You lose that final, and it's open season, mate. Open season. It's like the person who's borrowed money all around the place and then says, I'm going to win it all on this poker game, and then they lose it, and it's like, yeah, you're going to lose a lot more now. It's open season. You've messed up, and all goodwill is gone. 39 points for a Man United side is absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely abysmal. And I tell you what, why is it I know and you know that final tonight was a rescue mission? That final tonight was a lifeline. Why do we get it? And I tell you now, honestly, I'm 45
Oh, it's
years
3
of age.
fails.
That is the
Yo.
worst European final I've seen from Man
What
United in
happened?
my life. Awful.
Well, automatic
So
then.
they'll never top
Bye
this
bye.
season, and they'll never top that final. It was almost as if they agreed to lose. It was shit. What minute did they score in? Somebody get me that. What minute did they score in? 42nd minute. So we had the whole of the second half. The whole of the second half. The first substitution was 71 minutes. What was he looking at that made him think, oh, I need to keep these players on? They were fucking shit, mate. What was it? What was it that made you think that Delo, Xerxes, Mainu, Garnacho, Ericsson, you know, there's so many players he could have brought on, and he decided to stick with that shit heap. There's a part of me that thinks, are we losing? Is there something we're missing out on here? Is there something we're not getting? I have never seen a lack of urgency in a final like that. I have never seen such a stupid, and I use the word stupid. Look, I've backed this team. I've backed this manager for the last week. I've been there saying, look, you don't get many of these finals. We've got to enjoy it. We've got to back the players. But what I always said is, if it goes wrong, I ain't going to stick up for anyone. You can say what you bloody well like. You've got absolutely every right to say whatever you want. If you're hammer him out, fine. If you're hammer him in, fine. If you want this player sold, fine. There is... I will not sit here and talk to you, tell you what to think anyway, and I certainly won't tell you that you're wrong. Whatever you think tonight, you're not wrong, because that club is at rock bottom. And some of you will go very extreme, and some of you will go very, very calm.
Oh
But
shit, I
I'm
got 2
telling you now,
wins.
I have never seen a final like that. And I'm watching the minutes go by, and I'm like, we're not going to score. We're not. You know, at the end, I would have laughed if we'd equalised. You know,
This
against
probably
Leon, I
won't,
was
not
totally
fair.
engaged.
Yeah,
I was like,
probably
oh my
shitter.
god, oh my god. I'm watching a
Ooh,
final,
that's easy defense.
and I'm looking
not
at us
really
popping
bad.
crosses in, and I'm going, I think
This
I'll
shit
laugh if we
won?
equalise.
How?
I'm disengaged that much.
That shit.
I
like
think
that?
I will laugh. I
Uh-huh.
actually got to the point I was like, it'd be unfair
I
on
usually
Spurs
get-
if we score.
Okay.
And Spurs didn't play very well, but that's, you know what? Spurs fans, they don't care. They're getting pissed. They're having a great night. Well done. They're not even listening to this.
Yeah, I might change
Spurs
some
played
defense
shit.
around.
Spurs played really shit. So how bad were we? Because Spurs deserved to win.
Yo, my back fucking
It-
hurts.
I've
man.
never seen a Man United side turn up for a final like that. It was an absolute embarrassment. And all those people who've spent that money, all those people who've gone out there. And you know what? The worst thing is, I said it before the game, it's never acceptable to lose. But to not even score a fucking goal. To watch a final and not score a goal.
Can I get
It's a sin.
ML5?
It's an
Bam.
absolute sin.
Ah.
And the
ML5,
fallout from this is going to be
ML5.
horrific, by the way. If anyone thinks
Shit.
this summer's going to be boring, it's probably going to be horrible, but it ain't going to be boring. You know, maybe Bruno does go to Saudi. Garnacho, I think's gone. Maybe Mainu's gone. This is disintegration. I mean, I don't know where we go now. If I was Sir Jim
I
Radcliffe,
have
I'd do the
another
right thing and
mistake.
sell the club. Because I just
Belling,
think this club
please.
now,
No, ML5.
I mean,
ML5. Bam.
you know, maybe we start the season, we win a few games, and we
Nope.
enjoy being eighth. I don't know where we go now. Like, we'll talk about that in a bit. Let me talk about the final. Got a lot of people tuning in. Please do subscribe to the channel. I know a lot of people are putting comments.
I mean, sorry, him took over and over again. Man United shit. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Yo, what's up, guys? It is time for the balance patch prediction, or maybe just like talking a bit about the balance patch itself rather than the full-on prediction. So this is, as mentioned, going to be probably the big balance. And why can we say that this is going to be the big balance? Well, we had the dev talk earlier this year, and during the dev talk, a lot of talks were about balancing the game and putting more effort towards balancing the game. And they did also acknowledge that most, and they, in this case, the Korean devs, did acknowledge that the balance patches weren't that great as of recently. They did try to do a bunch of things, for example, the cigar around that time and
Yeah,
that
what
kind of stuff,
happened?
but still didn't really work out to what people would like to see. They did also mention that the first balance patch right after the talk would be too little of time to actually implement a lot of changes, or at least the better changes, as they were saying. But the one that came after that would be the big one, which is the one that's currently coming. It's as of recording this video, it's the 21st. I do expect this balance patch to hit early next week, so we're talking about 26, 27, maybe something around there. I don't know exactly when it is, but that is my expectation of when it is. And one thing that I do want to mention about balance patch, you can never please everyone. That is one very important thing to
Yeah, I'll
keep
put
in
the
mind.
comment section somewhere.
And that is something that Countess does also know, but it's something to keep in mind, because simply if your LD5's not
Put a
buff
comment here.
is shit patch. That's just the main thing
Yeah,
that
that's crazy setup.
happens for a lot of
Okay.
cases. Or let's say that you
I need
still
to go
have
toilet,
this weird,
toilet,
like,
toilet.
outdated hate for Oliver not removed, shit patch. Like that's just the thing. Like there's always people with certain mindsets that would be like, okay, I think this unit is too OP, that unit is too OP, and that kind of stuff. So for that reason, it is a little bit hard to say like what is a real good balancing patch for the majority of the players. Like that's the main thing. We look for a good balancing patch for the majority of the players. Most of the time, if we want to do a prediction, it's very easy to predict nerfs, and it's a lot harder to predict buffs. So, plus in most cases, people only think about their own LDs. So that's also, I have that same bias. I do like to think a little bit about other units as well, but in most cases, if you're thinking about like, hey, my unit is shit, you start thinking about, okay, what could be a good buff on that? There's a whole plethora of a lot of LDs that could be buffed, and they probably will address maybe 5 to 10% of those bad LDs, maybe less. But most of the time, they take about like 5 bad LDs and they start buffing those, such as we've seen with like a Croc in the previous batch. But we also see it with some units getting time and time again buffs, but they're still kind of ass and they keep on trying. So let's just see how that goes. So let's first establish what I would like to see for a patch in general. General changes I would like to see. I would like to see more siege speed leads, because right now siege meta, especially siege defense meta, is just
Oh shit,
very
buff your
much
paws.
rotating over, not removed.
Oh yeah, I can't see though. Okay, I need to
Yo,
put
what's up
this
guys?
down
It is
below
time for the
here.
balance patch prediction,
open
or maybe
this
just
shit.
like talking
I
a
to see
bit
the
about the
video.
balance patch itself rather than the full on prediction. So this is,
Set
as
up.
mentioned, going to be
Little bit,
probably
a little bit.
the big
But
balance. And why can we say that this is going to be the
J'allais
big balance? Well, we had the
faire
dev talk
les
earlier this
labyrinthes.
year, and during the dev talk, a lot of talks were
Changeour.
about balancing the
Mixed.
game and putting more effort
Mixed
towards balancing the game.
Synctrum.
And they did also acknowledge that most, and they, in this case, the Korean devs, did acknowledge that the balance patches weren't that great as of
How it's
recently.
called? I need to
They
make
did
another
try to
team
do a bunch of
for
things, for example, the
lab-
cigar around
labs-
that time and
labs-
that kind
labs-
of stuff, but still didn't
labs.
really work out to what people would like to see. They did also
Oh, I
mention
need to
that
go
the first
toilet.
balance patch right after
Tabarnak,
the talk would be
wesh.
too little of time to actually
Yeah, I
implement
forgot
a lot.
to
Talks
pause
were about
again. Pause. At team 60, yo. Oh, no. Raid. Is it raid? It is raid. It's not called raid, it's called labs. You fuck am I doing? Okay. Labs. Done. ce livre-là. Ok, le vocabulaire. Bon. Recommended start. Complete, let me complete it. Yo, smile de dos là, Zerbi, je suis dead. Ce bail-là veut me tuer, putain. Je sais pas ce que j'ai fait, mais mon dos, y'a crack.
Balancing the game and putting more effort towards balancing the game. And they did also acknowledge that most, and they, in this case, the Korean devs, did acknowledge that the balance patches weren't that great as of recently. They did try to do a bunch of things, for example, the cigar around that time and that kind of stuff, but still didn't really work out to what people would like to see. They did also mention that the first balance patch right after the talk would be too little of time to actually implement a lot of changes, or at least the better changes, as they were saying. But the one that came after that would be the big one, which is the one that's currently coming. It's as of recording this video, it's the 21st. I do expect this balance patch to hit early next week, so we're talking about 26, 27, maybe something around there. I don't know exactly when it is, but that is my expectation of when it is. And one thing that I do want to mention about balance patch, you can never please everyone. That is one very important thing to keep in mind. And that is something that Countess does also know, but it's something to keep in mind, because simply if your LD5's not buff is shit patch. That's just the main thing that happens for a lot of cases. Or let's say that you still have this weird, like, outdated hate for Oliver not removed shit patch. Like, that's just the thing. Like, there's always people with certain mindsets that would be like, okay, I think this unit is too OP, that unit is too OP, and that kind of stuff. So for that reason, it is a little bit hard to say, like, what is a real good balancing patch for the majority of the players. Like, that's the main thing. We look for a good balancing patch for the majority of the players. Most of the time, if we want to do a prediction, it's very easy to predict nerfs, and it's a lot harder to predict buffs. So, plus in most cases, people only think about their own LDs. So that's also, I have that same bias. I do like to think a little bit about other units as well, but in most cases, if you're thinking about, like, hey, my unit is shit, you start thinking about, okay, what could be a good buff on that? There's a whole plethora of a lot of LDs that could be buffed, and they probably will address maybe 5 to 10% of those bad LDs, maybe less. But most of the time, they take about like 5 bad LDs and they start buffing those, such as we've seen with like a Croc in the previous batch. But we also see it with some units getting time and time again buffs, but they're still kind of ass and they keep on trying. So let's just see how that goes. So let's first establish what I would like to see for a patch in general. General changes I would like to see. I would like to see more siege speed leads. Because right now, siege meta, especially siege defense meta, is just very much rotating on who are the speed leads, what are the speed leads, what units can you build with that. And therefore, currently, you pretty much just see the same defense over and over. To be honest, add in a 33 lead. Like, because right now, it's just a Sylvia. Geldnir is kind of okay, but it's kind of bad for the rest of the kit. But as long as you have a Sylvia, you're good in siege. And that's one of those things that's just, yeah, there should be a few more options out there that maybe add into the pile. I would like to see some more awakening changes, because there's still a lot of res units don't need res. Change it to whatever. Or we also have a few options where they have crit awakening and they have guarantee crits. Like that kind of stuff. For example, you have the Fire Yuji is one of those options. Zyros is one of those options. They're still good units, but just start making them have some sense. Like this one, there is crit awakening, cool. There is a always guaranteed crit on this one, and then there's a crit increase on this one with a harmful effect. So it always crits, and then you have a crit awakening. These kind of things just don't make any sense. So I would say mainly for the res awakening, we still have a few options out there, such as the Ian. Ian and the Light Ezio. That's definitely one of those. Like this one still has res awakening. That doesn't make any sense. We have the same thing on I think it was on you. Yeah, you're still res awakening. Like these kind of things, just remove that. The crit awakening is maybe not as bad because in the case of a fire Yuji, it's still a good unit. In the case of a Cyrus, it's already a really good unit. So maybe it doesn't really need that. But then again, maybe change the CR to an AK and don't go, yeah, just CR to AK. You don't have to go speed or anything crazy. And these two units can actually use their AK in the case of Zyros and the Fire Yuji. So that's the thing that I would like to see over there. I would also like PvE getting some changes. And what would I like to get some changes on PvE? Well, we still have this absolute shithole of a dungeon, which we can't run pretty fast because every buff blocker is just ass. Get a good buff blocker.
No,
And then
don't
we
move,
need
don't
a
move,
good
don't
buff
move, don't
blocker
move. I
skill
fucking hate
1
this
or
shit.
something like
Oh my
Brillia. Add
god.
more Brillia kind
This
of
is
units.
dumb.
So something that is just very high odds of landing that, but on different elements.
Bridge.
Something along the lines of this. I would like to see that just to get a little bit more stuff in for PvE. Plus, I would like to see more perfect AI units, such as Seek. The only thing is, also R5. Like, Seek and I think also the Pro line, they also go straight through the LD count. Let's just make this a little smaller so it's still readable. But yeah, this only works, Seek only works in Kairos dungeons, but it doesn't work in R5, which is just kind of stupid. So I think that these kind of changes would be good for the game. Same for like Igar. One of those units should always go for an S3, S2, shouldn't go for like a random S1, S2, whatever it's doing. It should just do that kind of stuff in the first place. So these are just more general takes and general senses that I would like to see. And there's one really important one. Less RNG bullshit buffs. Because right now I can give you a very good example in the current meta, which just shows that we're looking at a, especially in RTA, RNG shit show meta. And where would you base that on? Say, well, the moment that a Josephine has a 51 win rate on a 17 pick rate, that's how often she's being picked, then well, it's probably the hard counter into the Fire Megami, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Sure, whatever, I don't care. If this thing is picked that much and has that much of a win rate, you know that there's going to be a lot of sacky drafts. And that's just the main thing with the Fire Megami in the first place. Fire Megami is definitely one of those units. It's not high on win rate, but everyone kind of hates it, right? It's just super annoying. It's just very oppressive. And it's one of those things, like, it's currently spammed a lot. If it was spammed less, his win rate would actually be higher if he was used at the right position. So talking about a nerf when a unit is on a 47 win rate might be a little bit odd. But yeah, I would still change that. But let's go into some individual units, mainly RTA folks. So we are talking about nerfs. And for the first nerf, I'm going to be talking about the Twin Angels All. And I think that's a good nerf that they could do on mainly the Water Twin Angel and would affect the other Twin Angels a little bit less, is changing the S1 from 15% to a 10%. And might you say, it's like, say that's barely anything. What is that actually going to do? Well, I can actually show that over here in Swar Farm. So if we go on Swar Farm speed tuning, we take in the Judiel Roma and we go for Lanoa and whatever the hell that other thing is called. If we go for a 15 boost and we're at, let's say people have a 310, then a 310 would be in tune with a 274. If we change this 15 towards a 10, not that much, we are in tune with a 286. That makes it where I have to increase my speed on my follow-up unit. So you go from a Swift unit towards a Bio unit. You would have to increase the speed by about like 12 to 13 to still be in tune on that first turn. That is a huge downgrade on the Twin Angels, which has been shown as a incredible good unit for win rate and pick rate. I'm not sure if this is stronger than the old Oliver. I don't think so. I think the Oliver at prime time was probably at like 53-ish and then still this kind of pick rate. But it's definitely one of those units that you could say is like, okay, it's definitely a little bit too oppressive to change in there. Well, then a unit that's on everyone's mind and then is the Fire Megami. Well, there's a few options you could do to the Fire Megami. I would say remove Steel, give Strip. That is definitely an option. You could also say during that where you make him a bit weaker, I would maybe say the S1 extra chance. Because right now the S1 is a chance of a 50 to land. So let's say that you would make that a 75% to death break. So that could be a thing. So you do these two, well, buffs and nerfs at the same time. So you make him less annoying for the steal. Oh, this is a nice way to write steal. But that would definitely be a way where you can kind of nerf it, but don't overdo it where he becomes super bad and unusable. Because I'm not trying to make any unit unusable, but just trying to get him a little bit more fair and less annoying. You could also say, or you give him the A to B is currently 30, you give that towards a 25. Just slightly lowering those numbers. That's also an option right there for the Megami that I would see. But I do think he needs a little bit of an adjustment because he's just frustrating. And frustrating units are never good for anyone. Like, we've seen it with a bunch of streamers out there. Everyone's crashing out just random units. Plus, this thing disables a lot of other units to be played. And therefore, you're really forced into a bruiser meta. Pretty much the whole turn to 1 AoE CC meta is completely gone just because of a Megami, which is kind of lame as well. Irene is also not on the highest of win rates, but I do still want to address it because it's also, I think, one of those frustrating units to a certain extent. But I would do something pretty small. So the A to B absorb is currently, it is all, and that would go to like 50 or 75%. So it currently all actually means it could absorb like 120 or 130 A to B. Make that at least a 50 or 75 or even 100, but don't make it all. That's already a pretty big difference in the first place, I would say. I would say just 75 or 50 is more than enough on the first place. And that's just slightly down-tuning things without making things too OP. Another unit I do want to focus on is Sonya. It's also one of the higher win rate units with a pretty high pick rate. We'll get into like the actual super high win rate units in a second as well. Anything below 1% or like below 2% pick rate in most cases, I don't even really care about, or I don't even really look about. So, but Sonya is definitely one of those that is pretty high on the pick rate, pretty high on the win rate, has been there for a very long time. And I would like to make just a small adjustment. No A to B gain for glances. I think that that would be the main thing. You could also say CDS2 plus 1. So the skill 2 cooldown, you give that 1 up. But I think as long as you don't give her attack bar gain for glancing, like let's say you're fighting against the Carlos does get full on glances, and then we just simply get none of those hits in, but Sonya takes another turn because it was glanced. Yeah, that's kind of ass. So I would at least remove that. And then again, I do think Sonya is a pretty good unit that should be in the game, but it's definitely one of those things that could be slightly down-tuned. Well, then again, also keep in mind for the nerfs that I'm saying right now, I'm naming a bunch of nerfs once again because naming nerf is a lot easier than naming buffs, because buffs they're going to do, yeah, this unit is going to get a buff. Like, you never really know what they're going to do for buffs, but nerfs, it's really easy to see. It's like, okay, this is what's happening right now, how to down-tune that. I definitely do think that one that is definitely sitting on the chopping block for a bit of a nerf is going to be Zeratul. And Zeratul, I think the easiest nerf would be healing from 10 to 5. Or, yeah, I think that's probably the only what I would do. You could maybe say, S1, remove dots. That could be a thing as well. But I think it's mainly on this one. Zeratul is more of like a super endgame, really high stomper. In lower ranks, he doesn't do as crazy because people don't really have the runes for it, I guess. Well, no, he's still doing definitely... No, he's definitely doing fine. Like, that's the thing, like, he's kind of... if you don't have any good strips, he's pretty much unbeatable. He cycles. Every additional turn is insanely detrimental. So, one of those things that you could do to it is just slightly down-tune his healing. I wouldn't go as far as saying like, oh, S2 cooldown plus 2 or plus 1, because then he's just off the immunity at some point, or lower the immunity that he has, and therefore he's like easier to beat. I think that would take him down a little bit too hard, whereas I think that this is a little bit more fair, to be honest. Well, we do see a bunch of units being pretty high up here, but I would say that they're maybe more meta related, where they're good because of the meta. You could maybe down-tune the Assure by increasing the cooldown. You could maybe down-tune this one by increasing the cooldown. So those are, yeah, I think the easiest change you could do to either an Assure or a, whatever, I think Sadriel plus blah, 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 Wind Twins. You could increase the cooldown on those. I don't think that Valeska and Okeanos. Valeska just got good. Well, Valeska, she was kind of good from the start. Valeska, less damage up for allies because she has some passive part where you have extra damage up. I'm not even sure how much it is, but just make the damage up a little bit less. So just slightly down tuning things. We're not trying to Gurkha things out here. So those are a bit of things over here. One unit that's definitely on a lot of people's mind is, of course, the Gianna. And Gianna, I'm not necessarily sure if she really needs nerf. I don't really like the current state of Gianna myself because I don't like playing against it, but I don't like playing with it neither because for me, this 85% feels like 0, and for others, 85% feel like 100. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take Gianna from an 85 to a 50 the moment that there's nothing to strip. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. I'm not sure if they're actually going to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. If they do, by all means, make it fucking 0 again, I don't give a shit. But, yeah, that's just my I wouldn't be surprised if they do this. So that is kind of like most of the things that I would say would be there for nerfs. Here you could be looking at a bit more nerfs of a whole bunch of things. Shio's doing good, but it took him like a lot of years to actually be good. So we had a bit of talk about that on stream early, and it was actually to do the conclusion of like, okay, let him be good for let him have at least a season. I think that Josephine probably will be down-tuned the moment that the Fire Megami will be down-tuned a little bit more, and then the meta is more revolving around other things again. A little bit less passive meta, a little bit less RNG meta. Like, that's the main thing. Make it less RNG. That's just like, please. Because that's also the thing that I hate about this thing. The S2 is an activation rate of 60. Sometimes it feels like everything lands, and sometimes it feels like nothing lands. And that just makes everything super RNG. So I'm really not liking that much. So we can talk a very lengthy list about buffs. Like, we could talk probably for an hour and a half about every LD that is shit out there for buffs. And there's a lot of LDs out there that are absolute shit and garbage, and that's 100% true. And everyone has their own idea about their own LDs, what should be buffs. But I will talk about a few buffs that I have in mind that I think make sense because they have never been buffed or something like that. But there's going to be, your unit might not be in there. Just a simple thing out there, your unit might not be in there. One that I do think deserves very much a buff if they're getting nerfed on the skill 1, which is the Dark Twins. And I would say that on the skill 3, that is the big issue. It's a 2-time hit with a 50% chance for a 3-turn defense break. Sounds really cool now, but 2 times 50 is really ass. So I would make the 50 towards, so we have the S350 check towards a 75 check, or I would even do the following. I would make it a 3
c'est vrai belle à lag aujourd'hui.
Turn and make the 50 into a 85. Then you would make this unit a lot more impactful, a lot more interesting, and a lot more playable to the point where it's like, okay, this unit starts making sense right now. You can boost something up with the this skill, you can boost someone up, and then with this skill you can actually death break, and then you can get going from there, and you can make a really nice setup in there. Still going to be more of an arena unit and siege unit rather than a real RTA unit, I think.
Shit,
well, maybe
what
with
the
immunity a little bit,
fuck?
but then again, I think that is a fair one.
Oh my
I do
god.
want to
Is
say
that a good
Beelzebub,
setup?
which is a
Truffle and
unit I
then
do own, but the unit is legitimately never buffed. And because it is never buffed, I do feel like he really deserves a buff.
I don't know.
Still one of my points where I'm very salty of. I had a blessing between a Miying and a Beelzebub, and I was like, okay, Miying was recently buffed at that time that I
he's G1, so
could have that choice.
probably good.
And I was like, Miying is probably not gonna get buffed anytime soon. Beelzebub have never been
there it
buffed
is.
ever in like 6,
Oh,
7
there
years
is
of release.
nothing.
Let's just go for this one and we just
Let me
see what
go
happens.
Twitch that.
In the end, they buffed Miying to be, well, arguably top 5 to top 10 best units in game, and this thing has still never been buffed. So what is the big issue in Beelzebub? A lot of people would say it's like, oh, give him the insta-turn the moment he comes back to life and he will be good. Actually, no. The big issue is the S2. As long as you do the S2 and you're not like legit at like 20% HP or 10% HP, you're gonna do very little damage. So it's super easy to just simply ignore him. His skill 1 doesn't have that much value. If they ever go for a skill 2, you immediately kill it, because then even if he comes back, he has no value to it. So a few buffs, actually a buff mentioned by Obabo. If revived, insta-turn and get S2 back. So that is a thing. So if he is revived, he gets S2 back. That's something that is mentioned by Obabo. I would like to go for something that is similar towards Etheria Restart. That if dies, cheats death,
As of right, Ethereum
uses
restarts.
S2
When is
on
releasing?
the
Oops.
killing targets. So the killing
Ethereum.
target is then like the thing that hit you. He will cheats his death, and then he goes like, of course, passive on cooldown. He doesn't have like the self revive coming back blah blah nonsense anymore. He has one cheat death, and the moment that he dies, he immediately
2025.
uses
There's no
yes.
exact date. Okay.
Counterplay to this is of course still resets. That's the way to counter it. If you
June
wanna go
5.
free like it is in Etheria,
1 week, I guess.
being stunned makes passive not work. I think that this part is a little bit too strong of a counter against it, but that is definitely an option that you could be looking out for. Like, okay, if you stun it, you can just kill it off. But if not, he will cheat death and he starts using S2 at 0 HP on the target that just killed him. Something along the lines of like that, I think, are pretty fair buffs for him, to the point that's definitely not going to make him too OP, but it's definitely going to make him to a point where it makes him a bit better. Well, then again, we could go back and forth on a lot of LDs, which are all bad. I will take out a few that we discussed yesterday on stream as well, because those are the most mentioned, I think, throughout people. But I think we definitely have to be looking at things that are more likely to get buffs, which are the units that are released most recently. Would they already go for the Beetle Guardians, which are both kind of bad? Maybe so. I think the light just needs a little bit of a tweak. I'm not really sure what it needs, but Dark one we did actually discuss. Dark Beetle. And I think the Dark Beetle should do the Aegis Cry. This will also be for Gideon. Maybe it makes Gideon a little bit too OP. No, actually, no. Wait, you can do it like this. Awaken, change into S2. S2 insta turn and return buffs. So with this, the S2 becomes 3 turn buffs, but since you take the additional turn, it's back to 2. But since you take the additional turn, you can go for a defense buff threat state on self into a heavy hit here. So it becomes a self buffer on a defense scaling, armor break, and branding itself. I think that gives him a lot more potential for nuke. I still don't think he's going to be super insane, but I think that would be nice. And if you change that from the crit awakening into the S2 awakening, it would also buff this unit to Oblivion, because I think if you give the additional turn to this one, it might become a little bit too strong. I'm not 100% sure about that, but for that reason, I think something like that would be fair. Light one, I'm still not 100% sure about it, how you would actually buff this. Maybe just like some of the activations up or something like this. I'm not a really... Yeah, I would say the provoke rate could go up on like all of these, to be honest. I think that could be something like that out there. There's definitely a few units out there that do deserve a buff. Well, once again, going back to a unit that I have. Hanwoo, but also Wooyoung. You have both. Wooyoung. Remove skill that is useless for Kit. And in the case of Hanwoo, it's the S2. Just remove it, make it a passive. I don't give a shit. Do anything with it that makes it useful. By all means, make S2 self CD buff. We don't even have this, but I saw this from other games as well. Why is there no crit damage buff in this game? So this would be the only unique unit that has a self crit damage buff, takes additional turn, and then hits this stick. It's kind of like a talisman, but it's very different. It's no attack buff, it's no crit buff, it's a crit damage buff. And then make it like what? Crit damage, like plus 40 crit damage or so? I don't know. Make something out of it where this skill helps this skill, and not this skill does absolutely nothing for this skill in the first place. Plus, you're never gonna have accuracy on this thing. Plus, this thing barely has any damage. The only reason that my Humble does good damage is because he has my absolute best runes, he's at 0 speed, and he has a Deborah next to it that just simply adds 40k damage to every hit that anyone would ever do. So it's not that this unit is good by itself. Like, without the Deborah, he's legitimately unusable by the low amount of damage output he has. So that is one of those things. And I would personally say that for Wooyoung, maybe people would disagree with that, but Wooyoung's skill 3 is legitimately the same. It's all about the speed lead, it's about the S2, and the S2 is on the weird condition that it only increases if the ally is 4 HP, so in the long prolonged match, it's actually really bad. But this skill does absolutely no damage, so I could give the same argument for that. Those are definitely some options out there to maybe make this better. Let's talk about units that are more released recently. So, thing is, I think all Inosuke's are really bad, But since the light one is already good, I feel like the others are not really gonna get a buff. Like maybe on the third skills, but I feel like that Ionosuke is kind of fucked by the light one being good, and the rest of the family just absolutely being ass because the S1 and S2 are all super ass on them. But let's look at some Draken warriors. Light one is on such a weird thing that I think his S3 passive should work on allies. And maybe that's a little bit too OP, but it would make a lot more sense, or maybe work on all allies once? Or maybe with a cooldown or something like that, I don't know, but this reflect shouldn't be just for him. It should be working on other things as well. And even then, I think he's still kind of ass. And we also have, this is light. If we go for dark, dark one is a lot easier. Res, awakening, removed. Like, just make this speed awakening, make this crit awakening by all means. I don't give a shit, but don't give it res awakening. It's just absolutely garbage. So that's definitely 2 units out there. I would say light Tanjiro is one of those units that might be on a little bit of a buff potential. Tanji, and I would mainly say that I feel like that this skill 3 should actually give you a chance for attack bar increase the moment it's already used rather than this one. Because most likely you want to use the S3 before you want to use the S2. Would make a little bit of sense, right? I guess. But yeah, it's just change S3 healing to attack bar gain. And maybe on the S2 then you give the healing or something like that. Or you do both healing. And I would say S2 damage increase. I think it's definitely one of those things like this S2 for the whole family.
I feel like I didn't
Could
pick this
take a
one
little
up.
bit of a damage
Maybe
increase.
I
I don't
did,
think that would
'cause
be
this one's
too
open.
bad at all.
So there's something wrong.
Looking at a few other units that I do think, well, this is a personal one for me that I would like to see changed myself. It is really weird where all of the oracles were initially nerfed with the S1. Then, of course, all of the normal elementals were buffed. The light and darks were unaddressed. But then at a later moment, Gianna was buffed, whereas Lima was not buffed, is still not buffed since that original nerf. I would say Lima is a very easy one. No, Lima. And we go for Awakening, change. S2 goes to S1. And then we say crit 15% per crit S1. Simple as that. So remove this Ocarina over here. We don't care about the 100% activation. We don't care about the slow. Give us back the dots. Give it back 90%. Really doesn't matter. What she really cares about, that this thing should be 15 ATB per crit. If that is the case, would be a lot better. Or what you could do, if you want to keep it at 10, is 10 ATB for non-crits. And then, well, we could say 10 ATB always. So something like this. So sure, you still keep the 10, but your ATB increasing even if you're low on crit rate. I think something like that would make Lima a lot better rather than having this weird ass S2 doing her shits. But that is just something that I would say. Dark Geralt is one of those units always on the list. It's kind of a bad unit, but let's just talk about him for a little bit. Geralt, and I would say 3 buffs equals guarantee bomb land. Simple as that. If you have 3 buffs, you're a fucking alchemist. You get extra shit with 3 buffs. Okay, with 3 buffs, you guarantee land your bombs. Or bombs, HP scale. Damage. I think that could be an interesting one as well. Where is he a unique unit? Where is the only unit where his bombs are scaling from HP rather than scaling from attack? I think that would be kind of cool. Why not? It's definitely one of those things that could be added in there as well. Another unit that's often requested for, like, what would you buff to this? I think Celia, by all means, is not that bad in Siege. It's just people try to use an RTA, and it's not great in RTA. I would give one slight change to Celia, and that's the S3 focuses immunity first. And I think that will make her very nice, because she's hard counted if someone has, like, 3 buffs, and then she wouldn't strip the immunity. If she just has like a focus on immunities, and then of course if there's like 3 units to have immunity, 1 doesn't have immunity, it will always go for the immunity target. I think that would make her pretty interesting already. It's sure not going to make her over OP or anything, but it's also not going to make her really weak. I think that makes her a lot more interesting, especially for siege defense. Currently on siege defense, she's still kind of okay-ish, I would already say. But it's definitely something that could have a little bit of a change right there as well. We do also not see too much Mugwall. That's also one of those units. I think Mugwall without a Han is absolutely garbage, but even the Han users still don't really want to use this thing all too much. And I would say the S3, slight bit of healing. 5 to 10%. Just a little bit. Like nothing crazy, but just a little bit more than just the threat state. Just a little bit of sustain. So he is getting more versatility to his whole kit. Like, what is he doing? Some people were suggesting a cleanse, maybe an option as well, but I would just give a little bit of healing on the S3 and then just make your way work from there. I think that's already a pretty decent one out there that could kind of work. Then one of those units that I just still like to mention, I do have it, but this is one of those things that is just so terrible for the kit design that it just doesn't make any sense. Ritsu, and for the people that don't own him or never seen him, let me explain. He has this skill 3, you will lock a target, but if you have this skill usable again, you hit the same target, this skill will go on cooldown, whereas the lock is not replaced or anything. This skill will go on cooldown again. But if you hit something else, then you will replace that lock from your original target to the new target. So, and he gets speed, but because of that speed, he starts outlapping, where it's most likely him hitting the same target twice, getting this fucking skill on cooldown, and therefore you can't use it at the next time that the lock is available again. So make the lock S3 a choice, simple as that, or make it the lock a guarantee land, something like that, because if he doesn't land his lock, he's garbage in the first place. So one of those two things would already make him a lot more sense making. But yeah, just this thing always going on cooldown the moment you don't want it, the moment you hit anything.
Ouah, ça fait du bien. Mon ventre là, il commence à mourir. Bon, j'étais là.
Else, it's just replacing the lock. It just doesn't make any sense. Getting the speed barely makes any sense. He's really an ass unit, just by not making sense for a lot of cases. Okay, I just noticed that the last 5 minutes of the video that I recorded were not recorded by sound. So after that Ritsu, I just simply went into, there's a lot of units that could be buffed because they're just simply just bad and kind of things. Two that I do want to point out specific, and I did write down, were the Bergild. And Bergild, I actually have a pretty interesting buff for, which I would say is remove the speed awakening and then up the activation rate. So she becomes a really good bruiser, a more vial potential, because then it's a 103 base and you're no longer going to be putting it at swift and being a first turn potential. But you make it where she becomes a very consistent armor breaker, consistent stripper, and consistent stun / pushbacker on taking many turns. But it's no longer a super fast unit where you have swift potential on it, but it becomes a very good vial bruiser for armor break setups and strips, and also some disruption right there. I definitely do think she deserves something like that. Artemil is also one of those units that is often picked up as an idea of should be getting a buff. I would say that Artemil, the idea that I had for an Artemil would be the passive. The moment that you are stunned, you will still gain a 10% ATB increase for non-crits, same as that you have on the passive right now. But if you get critted while being stunned, you go towards 20%. And the biggest issue for Artemil is being stunned or being death broken. And this way you can kind of shake up debuffs a little bit better. Then I also did talk about arguably worst unit in game. This one is just trash and just is remove. Like, I don't even know what to buff to this thing. It's just straight up trash. I would say Dark One, maybe give Speed Awakening. Maybe it would be a little bit too OP, but still has like Hey Gang issues and that kind of stuff because of the slow debuff that it adds. Might be a little bit too much, but something like that. And then there's of course still a lot of other units that you might say are trash. It's just like some people claim this one trash, some people claim this one trash. They're not necessarily bad to the point where they're trash, where they really do need a buff. Then again, for Kanto, sometimes they have been buffing units that did not really need a buff in the first place, aka Feng Yangs and shit. But yeah, there could definitely still be a buff. Like some people are saying like, oh, Greg definitely needs a buff. But I would say if you put 113 base to this, would be way too OP. Sure, Adriana kind of does his job. But then again, if you go for a team with a Chandra, Odin, and a Greg, a high damage Greg can actually 2v3 the team of a Mieng, Adriana, Sonya. So it is still a best in slot in at least something. It's not a crazy unit, but it's definitely a usable unit to the point where there's a lot more other units that are a lot worse out there. Jaeger could be one of those that some people claim is very bad. I don't think he's necessarily super bad, but if you just give him like 35 to 40% chance on the counter, he will cycle a lot more in threat state and he will already be a lot stronger right there. And I would say that there's some options. Maybe Salah. I'm not sure if I mentioned this one already or it was missed in the talk as well. I would like to see Salah being able to attack 2 targets. So you have 1 target you select for the S1 and S2, and then you have another target you have to select for your passive. So it's no longer as random. Like, that's the thing. Remove randomness, make things a little bit more selectable, skill plays, that kind of stuff. Gurkha, by all means, give him back like 2 or 3%.
I'm probably gonna lose everything though.
And yeah, there's a lot of options.
That's why I'm just gonna risk. I'm not
did not
gonna
really
risk
mention
it.
him,
Just
but
straight up.
maybe I did already. Just 7% extra damage on the skill 1, and then just to get another line into this unit for some whatever reason. But yeah, that is it for me for balance patch predictions / things that actually.
Man, yo, ce balance patch a l'air fou par contre. C'est extrêmement hâte. Ouais. Ooh, Montreal, 35mm save. This one's nice. What's up? The update actually fix what? CS update. Frame rate, magnitude. Yo. Whoa. Attends, il y a une update là, j'ai pas trop compris. Ah, balance patch. To the release note. Ah, juste ouvrir le lien. Wesh, ça à quoi là? Wandering view angle adjustment new to record now calculate per frame. Rendered view angle adjustment. View angle adjustment. View angle adjustment. Hold on. View angle adjustment per frame. Ah, this shit. Calculate per frame. Yeah, it's more stable. Okay. Yeah. Makes me wanna play. Makes me new player RTA guide. Oh, this is what I need, but I don't have the unit. Ange-Pot steak cock.
How does that feel? Come on, I've been backing you all season. I love your football. You've had your injuries, young players, but you did it tonight.
Yeah, I can't say the same for everyone on the panel.
And can you put into words how you're feeling?
Look, it's just, I don't know. I can't put it into words, to be honest. I know what it means to the football club. I know what it means to supporters. And look, it's no secret we've had a tough year, but I've just had this thing inside me, you know, kind of the back half of the year of just one focus, one target. I just felt that, you know, this was it. And to achieve it today, like I said, I know what it means to the club. You know, it's had the tag of sort of a nearly team for a long time. And the only way you break that is by winning things. And we did that today.
And you've had a long sort of managerial career in different countries, different clubs. How tough has it been for you this season, having to deal with sort of, you know, the defeat in sort of every press conference after the game, and then you've got to build up to the next game, and obviously you've had lots of games because obviously of the Europa League run that you've been on. Has it been tough for you as a manager individually?
Look, it's been the toughest couple of years I've had in my career, and I knew it going into it because I knew what I was going into. You know, it's this football club's had world-class managers and you know, a lot better credential than I am, and haven't been able to get there. So I knew I had a massive challenge in front of me this year. Obviously, added stress of, you know, the injury situation we had and trying to navigate that. Jamie, like I said, I've just had this laser focus on, you know what, I still believe we can win something this year. We went deep into the Carabao Cup. Once we got knocked out of that, my focus just became Europe, and it's cost us in the league, and that's down to me. But I just had a feeling inside me that this was achievable this year, and you know, I'm thankful it all worked out.
And you've spoken a lot about the fact that what a trophy could do for this club, not just this team, but almost the club. Because you've felt for a long time almost like the club's looked down on, and you have that terminology of Spursy. What do you think this trophy can actually do, not just for you and this team, but actually the club going forward?
Yeah,
in
and
the
that's
future,
actually
you know,
criminal. Garnacho 20 minutes only played, and Kobe got 2 minutes. Yo! Attends, je dois voir les subs. Je dois voir les subs de la game parce que c'est pas moyen, wesh. C'est qui a start? C'est qui a start? Line up. Spurs, I don't care. Hoyland. Okay, whatever. Mazraoui, Casemiro, Fernandez, Dorgu, Luke Shaw, McGuire. Yeah. Yo, les subs sont venus après la 70e minute. Et le premier but a été marqué quand 42e minute. Oh, je suis au 70e minute pour faire les subs. En vrai, c'est un peu le temps. Je dirais peut-être 65 minutes, tu commences à avoir des subs parce que, wesh, 70 minutes, encore 20 minutes à jouer, puis c'est vraiment pas sûr. Je crois qu'il a juste paniqué. Yo. Young Min Son. Next course, c'est PSG. PSG Trophy Drought. You. Non, ça va être fou, mon gars. PSG et Inter Milan. Zéat. Fou match.
Years to come.
Well, I'm really hoping that it does. It changes the way the club sees itself more than anything else. I mean, externally, you know, you can't really, sort of adjust whatever people think about you, but how you feel about yourself is really important. And as a football club, you know, we've just been close so many times, and I could feel the nervousness every time.
Le golf club.
Every time we got close to something, there was always this, what if it's another year where we miss out? So we've done it now, so that's the monkey off the back. So now the club can sort of stand tall, and hopefully it does. You know, it looks at itself a bit differently and tries to challenge for more trophies. You've won one now, so there's nothing stopping you winning again.
Hi, Ange. Roy Keane here. I just want to say, Ange, well done. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant performance. Was it part of your tactic with so long to go just to sit back in and shut up shop? Really, did you think one goal would be enough? Did you actually believe that?
Yeah, I thought we could. Right, we've been really disciplined in Europe away from home. I mean, I think we kept a clean sheet at Frankfurt. We kept a clean sheet at Bodo away from home, and very similar performances. And this group's, you know, got that resilience in them now. Look, it makes a difference when I've got Van der Ven, Romero, Udogi, Vicario, you know, and then, you know, Bissouma and obviously Porro right back with Bissouma and Bentancur. It's a real solid sort of foundation for us, and I just felt with United, if we got ahead, then I thought they'd find it really hard to break us down and we'd be a threat on the counter-attack. We weren't as great in transition as I wanted to be, but, you know, they had some chances,
There's
but I just
something.
felt we were
I thought of something. I
resilient to
forgot.
beat them out.
Yo, it's not getting out of my head. Yo, they keep talking. Yo, Alzheimer. Oh oui, c'est vrai. Non, j'ai acheté des football kits. Yup. Fanatics Canada.
Big Meeks himself. I know this is not the Champions League show, this is Europa League, but I would like to ask you, who's your favourite on the show? Before you go.
Well, it's not me.
Might not be Thierry either.
I'm the only Spurs fan here, Ange, by the way. I'm the only Spurs fan.
He's come clean now.
Hey, we were all Spurs
Barca
fans tonight.
slides.
Yeah, no, you're definitely a declared Spurs fan. We got you in our camp, Roy. Yeah, look, I love what I do. I'm so blessed to be able to, do what I love every day. And I've got beautiful people around me and my family. And so even in the hardest of days, I still think, I had to pinch myself today, to be honest. I got mates who come from Australia. And part of me was thinking I should be in the stand with them, just enjoying the spectacle, It's difficult for me to comprehend, but, we're here now, we've won it, and, it's something in my old age I can reflect on.
Well, Anne, sorry to interject, but I asked about me, not you.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, Mika. You've been in my camp all along. I love you, mate. I think Joe Hart's probably influenced you.
Congratulations, well done. Come celebrate.
Thank you, guys. I will.
Thank you.
Your name is going to be in the walls of White Hart Lane.
Yeah, I mean, I can't describe the feeling right now, but I don't care if anyone scored. I don't care if the kit man scored, and we just needed to win the final. And yeah, to get the job done today is such a special feeling.
You not only won, you changed history. You feel that way?
Yeah, I think so. We just needed to win a trophy. This club deserves trophies. It's such a good club. Everything's there for us. And although in the league it hasn't been good enough, we knew this was a massive opportunity from day one. First game, Karabag. we got told that this competition is special, and I think you'll see now how special it is to us.
Is it your goal, by the way?
I don't know, and I do not care one bit. You can give it to me, you can give it to whoever the defender was, I don't care one bit.
How often you dreamt this?
It's been tough to dream it, because the last 2 days I've just had a real, I wouldn't say nervous because I was confident, but like, I haven't been able to think about the game too much. I just wanted to get out there and yeah, just enjoy, and now we finally can enjoy.
What does it mean, this title for you? First title, and first title you will never forget, and the first step is always hardest, but when you make the first step, it's one of the biggest ones. So I'm very happy, very, very lucky that I have such a group of the squad with me, and yeah, what can I say?
Oh. What do you think when you look around to the supporters?
So grateful, so grateful. Football is because
Yo,
of
his
them.
voice is cracking.
So I really appreciate it and I love them.
In the end, it's a good season with this qualification for the Champions League and this trophy.
Yeah, I mean, the trophy is more important than our Champions League at the moment. But look, we are next year Champions League, which is that we are looking after. And then look, next season is another season. Let's celebrate today.
Mickey, just sum up for us how you feel right now.
Unbelievable.
What does it mean to you,
Mickey van der
to these
Ven.
Tottenham fans who've waited 17 years for this?
Yeah, if you look at the fans, they kept pushing us the whole season. It was the season was so difficult, and we kept pushing and pushing, and we were playing so strong in Europa every time, and everybody was doubting us. But if you see like the team we kept together, and what can I say? It's just unbelievable.
You know, sometimes we talk about the goal scorers being the match winners, but tell me about that clearance with about 25 minutes to go. It looked like you'd broken your back.
I haven't watched it back yet, but I can tell you the ground over there is not really soft, but my back was, yeah. But what I say, it was all worth it. Look around, so everybody's going to celebrate now, and that's it.
Whatever system, we wouldn't have mattered.
Madison! How you doing, Jamesy boy?
You got changed.
I had to get a medal.
James is literally done. What's it called, the John Terry?
The John Terry
It's
full
called
gear.
James
I didn't go with
Maddison
shin
now.
pads this time, but
Have you got your shin pads on, James?
No,
nah, not quite.
boots,
To be fair, I weren't going to do any interviews, but then I heard it was with Roy Keane, so I popped down.
Oh, ça c'est méchant. Ça c'est méchant.
With pleasure, Michael, with pleasure. Roy Keane, that's for you, sir.
I've always said he's a good player. I've always said he's a good player, but he needs to be more consistent. Simple as that. And he played well tonight.
Yo, qu'est-ce que Roy Keane fait là, wesh?
The reason why we were here tonight, Roy.
Don't worry, I know you played your part. Well done, don't worry.
Nah, I'm only messing. Nah, I came down to have a word. He just pulled me, but nah, I did like it, man. Like,
well done.
James,
so
James,
cool,
can I just ask you?
No, I can't. No, he sound pissed. He
You've
sound fucking
joined Tottenham,
pissed.
you want to win trophies, but you're always sort of talked about as a club who they don't win, they can't get over the line. I mean, what's that going to mean to sort of the players right now? What's the feeling being leading up to this game and almost that pressure on you to prove so many people wrong?
Well, that's what it is, Cara, to be fair. And like, all joking aside, like people like yourself and Roy, who go quite heavy in the media about putting us down and that, you've got to use that, you know what I mean? And when I joined Tottenham, and you know what it's like, everyone just goes, he's retired from winning any trophies now and all this. And I said to my dad, and I said to my best mate, I was like, I'm going to lift silverware for Tottenham. And listen, I know it sounds like I'm not trying to make this mad story, but I fully believe that I could come and we could create something that could. And just building up, you know what it's like, it gets bigger. We're against United, who have been a dominant force over the years in Europe and domestically. Even in the last few years when they haven't been great, they've still managed to pick up trophies, and we knew that would be a bit of the chat going into it. But I sensed the focus and I sensed the togetherness that, especially with this year as well, with Palace winning the FA Cup and a lot of them outsiders kind of winning, I sensed it could be something special. And
So you're calling yourself outsiders then?
no, but I'm just saying Palace were outsiders and won. And then Harry Kane went and won his first title, and I think Bologna won in the Italia Cup against Milan. And I just had this feeling, you know, and yeah, and especially with the gaffer, with what he said at the start of the season as well. It made sense, didn't it?
James, Just interesting when you say when people sort of give you criticism, and one of the reasons why we do give not just your Tottenham team criticism, the club over the last few years, is that you've lost 7 semi-finals since you last won a trophy. You've lost 4 finals, so I think the criticism comes from not getting across the line. But how does that criticism affect you or the dressing room when you hear the likes of us on the panel or other people? Do you use it? Does it affect players now? Because we probably didn't have it in the social media world as much as players have it now.
Yeah, well, the social media word, Cara, heightens everything times 100, doesn't it? But when you talk about them records and that, a lot of the players haven't been here for that long, that record, so it's almost like an incentive to be the group that can change that. Do you know what I mean? And the gaffer, to be fair to him, since he come in, has always said, he pointed at in our dressing room at the Spurs ground. They've got all the walls of all the teams at Spurs who have won trophies.
I can use
and
my
they're all old. And he's always made a thing about saying
light ship. I need new front lines, mate.
Like you think of Harry Kane, who's the best player in the club's history, and he's not on the wall, unfortunately. And be in the group that can change that, and we have now. So I can smile, I can enjoy, I can have a beer tonight, and listen to you let me.
James, can you show us that medal, please? Can you bring it closer to the camera?
I'll get nice and close for you, Mike.
Yes, of course you will.
Give it a kiss.
Look at that.
Give it a kiss.
Absolutely fantastic. but James, before you go, one last question. You know, it's a different team tonight, not the Champions League. This is a Europa League team. I just want to ask you, who's your favourite on the show?
Well, Roy's not a regular, is he?
Like you at Spurs.
Turned up in all the big ones, Cara. You go and check your stats. Micah, you're my favourite, mate. All right. After that comment, you're my favourite, Micah. All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hello. Today we'll be starting our RTA guide for new players, and there will be a couple of episodes as usual. And first of all, a disclaimer for the guide: there will be no limited unit or collab will be discussed, as not every new players who are watching right now will have them, and I'll try not to include as much Moonlight 5 unit, which is the dark and light unit, if possible. I mean, just not everyone is just lucky to have them. And secondly, if you have the meta unit, definitely build them over these suggested ones. And some of the unit might not be in the meta right now or in the future, but they are definitely still usable. What I mean by that is the unit that I suggest.
I'm missing
and this
one.
video will include a lot of free unit or 3-star and 4-star unit, which is very easily accessible for new players. So don't worry about it, and this will definitely make you able to do RTA super early. And lastly, the suggested stats are on the lower side for new players, so don't come back in the comment and say that, oh shit, you're so low on this stats, you're so low on this stats, it's unable to do it, because I'll just tell you guys, in lower rank RTA, gears are not intensive, and you can definitely win matches with badly geared unit as long as you have a good game plan and a good draft. Firstly, we'll be going through the team comp on each category, like how many of each unit that you need to build. First of all, definitely we need a mitigation. When it comes to RTA, mitigation is your tanker to help you soak up as much damage as possible to help you to survive as long as possible. So for mitigation wise, we'll be looking to build about 2 to 3 mitigation, just so that if your opponent somehow pick one of the mitigation they have built, you still have another one that you have prepared. While for cleanser wise, we'll be preparing for about 2 to 3 cleansers, while for debuffers we are looking about 1 to 2 debuffers. Debuffers are usually units that help you to stop your opponent's momentum, or to stun them, to sleep them, to buy more turns for yourself. Okay, while for DPS wise, we need about 5 to 6 DPS. I would suggest about 5 DPS is enough. So pretty much we just need about 10 to 15 units, and we are good to go for a beginner.
Whoa. I will die if I go through this.
That, we still need to build some anti-cleave units too, which will help you to win certain games against Keybers. First, when it comes to mitigation, I'll do suggest a couple of mitigation that you can build, and I'll suggest like very free ones that you can get, and one of them is definitely ARAS. One of the best aggressive mitigation is even being used for endgame players, which is like super high in ranking too, and it's really good right now, and it is free, so everyone have access to ARAS. Right, why do I say that he's one of the best mitigation? It's just because he provides dual attack and defense break on his skill 2, and some self-sustain and defense buff for the whole team on his skill 3, which makes him a very good mitigation. While for the build wise, we definitely looking, we are not looking for some high-end build, so just try to build him about 25k HP with 1.5k defense, about 170, 180-ish speed. It would be decent about that stats line, and definitely for artifact wise, we'll go for August. The second mitigation that we're looking at is Arrowwall. The reason why I pick Arrowwall is because when we just started the game, we do not have a lot of artifact choice, and some of us might be that unlucky that we don't even have Aureus. So therefore, Arrowwall is a pretty.
Je suis mitigé. Il fait noir dehors. Je ferme la fenêtre.
Good and beginner friendly mitigation because Arrow do build in Aureus, so you don't have to have Aureus in him. While for his build, we'll be looking at 25k HP, about 1.5k defense, about 160, 170-ish speed, and the artifact choice will be Adamant Shield. Next, we're looking at Crimson Armor. Crimson Armor is a 4-star unit. He provides a very great mitigation just because he's passive, and Aureus, it does provide a double mitigation. We call that a double mitigation. Okay, and definitely we built him super slow. We don't really have to care about his speed. While for HP wise, will be about 6k HP. While defense, we're looking for 1.6k about there. And yep, artifact choice definitely Aureus. While there's another very beginner friendly mitigation that I'll suggest is Crow, the blue Crow. I mean, it's a 5-star, it's not that easy to get, but one thing good about him is like Arrowwall, okay, where he have a built-in Aureus, so it's very beginner friendly. Like I said, I mean, not everyone have like 10,000 Aureus. We just started the game, so yeah, he's definitely one of the beginner friendly tank. So for his build wise, we'll be looking at about 27k HP, 1.5k defense, about 170-ish speed, and you can slap him on Adamant Shield or Holy Sack as artifact. Next, we'll move to Cleanser. There's not much cleanser in this game, right? When it comes to non-limited cleansers and stuff, but definitely there's one very strong cleanser, which is called the Infinite Horizon Akate. She's a 4-star light soul weaver, and she's definitely one of the strongest cleanser now, and she provides a lot of tempo for the team. And besides that, she's pretty easy to build, and she's one of the best unit to go up against ML Luna just because of her passive that pushes her up, so we don't need to build her like super fast. just pushes her up herself and flanks the king. So if you can build her fast, just go about 240 speed with the rest just go into the bulk, which is around 15k HP, 1.2k defense. And if you can't build her fast, you can look at about 200 speed, right, the same HP and defense, while 200 ER for the slower build. ER is effect resistance, by the way. And definitely for artifact choice will be Eternus. It's a 4-star artifact. So for the next cleanser, I mean, we don't have much choice anyway, so we just go with Festina. Though she's not being used a lot nowadays, but as a new player, I think she is one of